Hey, welcome in everyone to the Game or Die podcast. My name is Ryan Moore, and I'm going to try and record this podcast, episode 99, for the fourth time. So let's go ahead and jump right on into it. I've been playing a ton of games over the last couple of weeks here. I also was out of town for a week, so I was not able to stream. I kind of fell off a few things, but getting back on the horse, and let's get started with our first game, which is James Bond 007 First Light. Now, James Bond 007 First Light, or just 007 First Light, is a James Bond game. It is really interesting. It has a lot of pedigree built up from the developers of IO Interactive, or IOI. Now, this game itself is unbelievably interesting because it has the DNA of a Hitman game. Now, if you've known me over the last few years, I've been talking about Hitman as much as I possibly can because it's a great game. It's a great series. It's one of my favorites. I'd say it's probably in the top 50. But with the Hitman games, there are clockwork gameplay where every character in the world or level that you're in has a set path, and you need to hit certain points at certain times to really kind of understand what you're supposed to be doing, who you're supposed to be, and it allows you to really craft your own way throughout the entire level. It's unbelievably awesome. But with I keep saying GoldenEye because I was talking about it in the previous recordings where GoldenEye was like this big, crazy game back in 1997 that everyone loved. I, myself included. I loved GoldenEye. GoldenEye was one of those games that I found myself playing over and over and over again. And it was mainly due to the story mode because I really liked the story mode. I did not really play a whole lot of the multiplayer aspect because the multiplayer aspect was something I never really got to play because of my best friend. My best friend had his brother and him play it all the time throughout the week, and so whenever I would go over to his house, like on the weekend, he'd be like, I don't want to play any GoldenEye. You know, my brother and I have played that all week. And I'd be bummed out because I didn't really have anyone else to play with. I didn't have a brother. My sister was much younger than me and not into video games. So around 1997, man, I had very, very little time to play multiplayer games. So I really got into single player games, and GoldenEye was fantastic. A lot of the level design and character animations and everything about that game was so perfect. So I was kind of really bummed out when that game just kind of came and went with me with the multiplayer aspect. And then in Perfect Dark, the kind of follow-up that Rare did, that allowed bots, which were really cool because I would play multiplayer with the bots and still have a really good time. Now, let's actually talk about the game that I want to talk about, 007 First Light. The game itself is really cool, but it's very linear. It's almost like a hallway simulator in a way. It's very handholdy, and it doesn't allow you to deviate off of the predestined path. And what I mean by that is there's several levels that are kind of open world-ish, where you get the lay of a land of like a hotel or a black market in the desert or a nightclub. And you as James Bond are playing around in this sandbox almost, but you can't really do anything. It's a lot of set dressing where you can eavesdrop on a few people and you get this little tiny breadcrumb trail of point A to point B. But then as soon as you get to point B, that's it. There's nothing else. The cutscene happens, you meet your person that you're supposed to meet and whisked away off to the next area. So there was a lot of times where I'm like, okay, cool. Where's the next scene? Where's the next section? What can I do? Who do I have to punch out and steal their clothes? Do I have to hide a body? All these things you do in the Hitman series. So I was expecting a lot more Hitman style gameplay with an added benefit of having it be James Bond. But we never really get that. Instead, what we get is a very finely crafted 16-hour movie. And with the movies, you get this really cool story where James Bond is a very, very charismatic, sly, suave, sophisticated spy who is a very well liked with the ladies. He can, converse and hold his conversation at a very high level with the enemies in the movie as well. Everyone's on like the top of their game. Here, this is a origin story. And I'm so sick to death of origin stories. I'm going to try and not rant or rave. I've done it a few times already trying to record this podcast. But really, unfortunately, this game is trying to just make something their own by giving this James Bond character a tweak, a change of the well-established character that we've had for, 60 plus years? Instead, he is kind of like the everyman. He's good at his job, but he's very self-confident to a very big fault. And he doesn't get away with a lot. He ruins a lot of stuff. He's kind of bumbling in certain ways. It's not the James Bond that I grew up with. It's not the James Bond that I care to be friends with or like. And it creates this really weird tone for the entire game. There's a lot of modern writing with it because it does take place in modern times. But James Bond is supposed to be like this really charismatic character, and there are really good parts to this game, but I did not find those good parts to be worth it, honestly. I had a good time with the game, but not that good of a time. Was it $70 worth of a good time for 16 hours? I mean, for 16 hours, I got my money's worth, but I would have liked this game to be cheaper. I would have liked this game to be on Game Pass so that I could rent it and not spend it, because it's a game I'll never, ever, ever come back to. Now, they are doing a DLC, but the DLC, we'll see. We'll see if I want to play it when it comes out in probably a year. So one of the biggest things that I really liked was the set piece moments, because those open world areas that are very linear, very closed off, don't allow you to do a lot of stuff. The set piece moments do make it feel like a James Bond movie. There's a lot of car chases, a lot of explosions. The combat is the absolute best part of the game, with the set piece moments being a very close second. There's sections where you are driving cars on a chase. There's this area where you get to an airport and you have to chase down an airplane that's trying to take off. Like, who doesn't like that type of scene in a movie? And then when you get onto the plane, I think you crash the plane, or the plane kind of explodes, or something happens to the plane where you got to bail out. And you are skydiving in the air while all this cargo is falling out. And it becomes basically like Uncharted 3. Where Uncharted 3, you're doing kind of a lot of the same stuff. So they have these moments in the game that feel very cinematic, meeting or exceeding sometimes in certain cases, depending on who you are, some of those bigger Sony prestige games like Uncharted or Last of Us, right? So it's really, really cool, but you can see a lot of the underlying way the game is trying to tweak and change James Bond into something he's not. And this, briefly, I'll touch on, includes the DIE stuff. Unfortunately, there is a lot of stuff where you can see that they are clearly trying to change certain things. Now, M has been a woman character since 1997, since GoldenEye, so that's not really that big of a deal. But a lot of the other characters, you go, oh, wow, these are clearly archetypes that are designed to push some sort of agenda, some sort of way of trying to buck the norm. And even the developers themselves said, no, we don't like James Bond to be a misogynist. He's going to be much more caring and empathetic. And who Who the crap wants that? Like, let's be honest. Come on. I want my James Bond to be a womanizer. I want him to be misogynistic. But in all honesty, it just is one of those things that is just one of those twists of the knife. Like, I'm having a good time with this game, but why is that there? Come on, who is this character? Why are they being introduced this way? And it really just stops the immersion immediately. And I'm a big person and a fan of the immersion in video games, where I am immersed into this story. I'm playing this video game. I'm having a good time. I feel like I'm maybe the character, right? You kind of like take on the role of the character. And when the character is kind of bumbling or he makes corny jokes, makes me roll my eyes, if I can predict what bad line he's going to say, it happens a lot in that game. It reminds me of how terrible modern things are versus how great older things are, right? Not to be the old cranky guy in a chair talking about that stuff, but man, it's apparent. And it's not something that a lot of people hand wave it off as old man yells at sky, right? Like, I'm so disconnected that I can't enjoy anything new. Oh, of course I can enjoy things new. But it's not an opinion that things were better back then. It's a fact. So calling it out just is one of those things like, hey, can we stop making origin stories? Can you stop trying to introduce characters to be completely different versions of the ones that we care about? Because playing this game, I don't want to play another game as James Bond. Not this James Bond. I want to play as Pierce Brosnan James Bond. All right. So those are the kind of things that like just kind of set me off a little bit. But there's a lot of cool parts to the game. One of my favorites, I think the best part, is the combat. Some of the combat in 007 First Light is the gunplay. And they do a couple really cool things. There are sections where you can slow down time a little bit, so you get a little bit bullet time, and you can aim at certain body parts. And if you aim at the hand of an enemy that's holding a gun, you shoot the gun out of their hand. And then you can run up and then start punching them in the face, shoot them in the face, kick them in the groin, shoot them in the groin, whatever you want to do. And there's also another little simple mechanic that I hope every video game steals for the rest of eternity. And it's when you walk over and run over to a gun that is on the ground that an enemy dropped, you kick it up into the air and grab it and then start shooting. It just looks freaking cool. All right. That is the style of stuff that I want to see in video games. That's the stuff that I hope everyone steals and takes it for themselves and adds it into their next game. But unfortunately, a lot of this game is just a lot of walking around open areas that aren't really that interesting or have anything else to do. Some collectibles off the beaten path, but unfortunately, I never really found a reason for them. I don't know what they do other than, hey, collectible. So that was kind of a little bit of a bummer too. And man, I really am bummed out that it wasn't as good as I hoped it would be. I really loved the Hitman series, and I hoped that there was more of, and I wanted more of the Hitman series infused into this game, because unfortunately what we're looking at with 007 First Light is a origin story James Bond movie that is interactive for $70 and 16 hours roughly. That's all there is to it. It's a movie, really, and it shows. And I'm just really tired of a lot of these writers and developers who value movies more than video games, because that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. These writers want to be Hollywood writers. They want to be in Hollywood, that industry. They want to be rich and famous. They want to dine with the celebrities. So they take their screenplays and they can't get them made in Hollywood. So they'll go to Hollywood Light, which is the gaming industry. And I think video games are much more interesting, infinitely better than Hollywood, especially nowadays. So, like, it sucks that we're getting these scrap pieces of these writers who kind of craft crappy stories, and we're getting them as full blown AAA multi-million dollar video games. Like, it sucks, man, because these stories are not that great. However, like I said, I'm trying to be a lot more positive on this game because there's a lot of really cool things about it. I really dug, and I didn't at first, but I did dig the intro section of the game. And it's long, man. There's a whole first intro before you get to the title card, and then when you get to out of the title card sequence, you are James Bond being recruited. You are recruit Bond. And man, there's this whole montage, like a 2.5 minute montage of training, plus the whole training exercise area that you have to go through multiple times. And you're doing it with your core group of recruit buddies that you live with. There's a guy, a girl, and I think you. I think it's three. And forgive me if it's a fourth one. They were completely blank in my mind. But it's really cool because you kind of start playing around with the little sections and having little quips and jabs with your characters, and you start kind of being buddy buddy with them. And then unfortunately, spoiler alert, they get taken out and you become very callous for kind of a good section of the game. James Bond is pretty morose and depressed because his friends got killed, right? So it was one of those things in the game that I was bummed about, but I saw the reasoning behind it. I went, okay, you know what? I'll give you that. That's a really good way of really making me connect with the character a lot more, because I was connecting with these other characters, my friends, and then they all died. So it's interesting. I'll say that. It's a very interesting game. On the whole, I think it was a fun game. I don't think it was worth $70. I think it would have been better if it was a $60 game and there was more open sections to it. The parts where you're walking around, like the lab in Q's lab, which is really cool. Q is a really good character. They always do right pretty much by Q. Q is like the one staple character in the James Bond franchise that has always just been top notch and really fun. And like, it's a lot of gadgets and goofy spy stuff, right? So of course they're going to do a really good job with that. The Q Lab is pretty awesome. So yeah, I wish that there was more of that Hitman DNA that allowed us to explore more of the world and spend, honestly, I wish that I could have spent 2 hours in each one of those sections, like the nightclub and the black market and the hotel area. Like, all of those areas were so interesting visually, but it's very shallow. There's no depth to it. There's nothing to do in that area. You walk around and you go, okay, cool. What do I do? Who do I interact with? And like, no one. You can interact with like 3 people. That's it. That's all there is to it. And the eavesdropping just takes you from point A to point B. And once you get to point B, like I said, it's done. You've completed that section, and now you're off to the next area or level or cutscene or whatever. I will say there are some good boss fights too. The boss fights were one of my favorite parts in the game too, because they all kind of cribbed a little bit and took from the Batman Arkham City Mr. Freeze boss fight. And if you haven't played that game or you don't know what I'm talking about, the Batman Arkham City boss fight with Mr. Freeze is really cool because it takes place in the Gotham City Police Department. And Mr. Freeze has taken it over, so everything's ice frozen cold. And he's walking around and you have to take him out. You battle him. It's a boss fight. You're in this enclosed area. And every time you have to hit him, he recognizes how you took him out or how you damaged him, and he makes it so that you can't do that again. So if you go under a grate in the flooring and you pop out and start hitting them and like pull out one of his like cryogenic like tubes or whatever, then he goes around all the grate areas in the rest of the section and freezes them so that you can't get in them anymore. And it cuts off one of your ways to damage him. So then you have to go to the gargoyle on the ceiling and you drop down from there and damage him. And then he goes, all right, cool, I'm going to damage all the gargoyles. And that's how this game or how that boss fight works. So some of the other boss fights in the game of 007 First Light is really, really cool because it kind of takes a lot of that. It adds in those little extra things and you're like, oh, that's kind of cool. I like that a lot. So yeah, it's fun. It's interesting. It's a good game. It's a good game. It's not going to probably be in my top 10 this year. Like that's how not that impressive it is. However, I've been playing a lot of other games that are way more impressive, so let's go ahead and talk about those. Before I do, I want to say that this other game is not that impressive, and I'm going to try and keep it short and sweet, and it's going to be StarFox. Oh, let's talk about StarFox for just a brief moment here. So, StarFox is a remake. It's one of the multiple remakes of StarFox on the Super Nintendo. So back in 93? In 1993, you had StarFox on the Super Nintendo. That was like such a crazy thing that happened because it took this polygonal game that only could be achieved. The graphics could only be achieved because of the Super FX chip, which was a hardware IC or integrated circuit chip in the game itself that unlocked more potential for the Super Nintendo hardware. So the game actually had hardware that was used in it so that the game could run. It was really interesting, really special, and it's one of the very unique things about the Super Nintendo. Several years later, in 1997, they came out with StarFox 64. And StarFox 64 is a remake of StarFox 1, basically, and overwrites StarFox 2, which never actually came out. StarFox 2 was a game that was made on the Super Nintendo, and in the development time of StarFox 64, Shigeru Miyamoto said, you know what? we don't want people to look at StarFox 2 that looks way worse with worse graphics because it's on an older system. Let's just shelve that game, even though it's basically complete, and let's put out our just StarFox 64. So we got StarFox 64, and it was rad. It was a really fun time. In my review, I wrote about my friend David, who I would go over to his friend's house. He was kind of the rich kid of my friends who always had the newest, latest, and greatest stuff. So I remember 4th of July weekend, I came over to his house, and we played StarFox 64 like from morning until fireworks time. It was so fun. It was so good. But unfortunately, like StarFox 64 is a very short game. I played it on stream multiple times, and it's beaten in about 45 minutes. A 45-minute game. However, there are multiple paths throughout the game that you can take that allows you to go to different levels. And there are multiple vehicles as well. You have the R-Wing, which is super rad, and it's the spaceship that you fly around in for most of the game. But there are also levels that allow you to be a tank or a submarine. And man, it's so fun playing those things. Being in the submarine, it's got a very dark and eerie atmosphere to it. It is so cool. Same thing with the tank sections. Those are really fun. But they're the exact same thing. They're StarFox 64. Now, StarFox 64 came out in 1997. Few years later, they came out with StarFox 64 3D on the Nintendo 3DS. And it's basically a port with just some extra things, but it is quote unquote a remake as well. It's counted as a remake of StarFox 64. And then we had StarFox Zero on the Wii U in 2014, I believe, 2014, 2015 maybe. And that, again, was just one of those games that was very similar to StarFox 64, to where it's counted as a reimagining, where it does add some stuff, but I mean, not enough to where you really would want to play it or enjoy it. So then we get StarFox 2026 on the Nintendo Switch 2. And unfortunately, it is just StarFox 64 with a new coat of paint. There is very little dialogue changes, like very, very little. The voice acting is subpar. Let's be very honest. The voice acting is one of the worst things about this game. Besides the fact that it is a game that is about an hour-ish long. You can beat it if you skip the cutscenes in sub 1 hour. And there's nothing new to it. And this is where my biggest gripe about it is. Nintendo themselves said this was going to be a reimagining. Now, that on itself is not something I want to hear, because I don't want to hear a remake or remaster or reimagining of anything ever again. No more. We're done. 100%. We're done with this crap. New games only. We already have the old games. No need to remake them. We're done. We got the remaster or the remake of Resident Evil 2 and 4. We got the remake of System Shock. We're done. We don't need it anymore. So when we got this game and I played it, I spent $50 to play a game that took me about an hour and a half, and I'll never boot it up again. Literally never. I spent an hour and a half playing this game, and I will never, ever, ever play it. Why? Because I have a better version of it. I have a PC port of StarFox 64, which plays better than this and is more fun and more nostalgic and better voice acted. And I honestly like the graphics of StarFox 64 better than StarFox 2026, because their graphics are better, more higher resolution, but they are bland. There's nothing that stands out about this game. And that's one of the biggest things I think a lot of people forget about when talking about graphics. When you're dealing with graphics in a video game, it is not just, oh, let's make sure that it looks nice. It has to appeal and have some sort of graphical artistic style to it. And this has no artistic style. And the characters look fugly. And yes, I'm using the word fugly. That's how bad it is. They look ugly, beyond ugly. They look weird. They look uncanny valley-like. And that's one of my biggest issues with this is it's just a very uncanny valley-looking game with the characters, and they don't serve any purpose. There's no new stuff. There's no reimagining. Nintendo lied to us, and they sold us a game that we already own. And again, I can play it on the PC recompilation port and have a better time for free, and it looks better, and it plays better, and it's on PC, and it will be better than this bland piece of flan. Like this is tofu. This is tofu gaming. That's what remakes mostly are. Now, not every remake is terrible. Not every remake is something that you should hate. But for the most part, especially when it doesn't do anything new, dude, this remake serves zero purpose, right? So that's StarFox 2026. Now, let's talk about the next game that I wanted to play or talk about, which is Mullet Mad Jack, man. Oh, holy crap. This is a game that I've been wanting to talk about. Now, Mullet Mad Jack is a game that came out in 2024, and it is this super crazy, hyper video game that is a run-based shooter. So it's a first-person shooter, and you are this character in this world that is like an advanced cyberpunk 1980s neon Blade Runner style city. And the entire world has been taken over by robots. And these robots have become very wealthy and have their own personalities and stuff like that. And the rest of humanity is starting to rise up by filming or streaming themselves killing these robots. Now, you are just this random dude who comes across a TV show that is streaming and giving away a free pair of sneakers if you kill X amount of robots. So you go on and try and get these free sneakers. However, this robot boss has also kidnapped the streaming princess, I believe is what it is. I can't remember the whole plot of it because it's kind of nonsensical and it really doesn't matter all that much. But basically, you are recruited by this streaming company to go save this streaming princess and stream all the killing of the robots to get some free shoes. And it's ridiculous as it sounds, but it is so unbelievably fun because what happens is it takes the concept of the Raid movie or the new, quote unquote, new. I know I keep saying this, but the Carl Urban 2012 Judge Dredd movie, which is phenomenal. And Judge Dredd movie is so stinking good because it's just self-contained. And even they did it again with RoboCop in the RoboCop Rogue City Unfinished Business DLC or standalone DLC last year. Last year, we got the DLC to RoboCop Rogue City, which was basically you're in a tower and you got to get from the bottom floor to the top floor. Same thing with the Raid. Same thing with the Judge Dredd movie. You are going from the bottom floor to the top floor trying to rescue the princess. And every floor, which takes about 1 to 2 to 3 minutes, depending on how much you are, it's usually about 1 to 2 minutes. And the reason why is because your health ticks down every second. And you only have 10 seconds to live. So every 10 seconds, you have to kill a robot. And so you are just running through and blasting your way through every single floor on this tower from floor 1 to floor, I think it's like 50 or 60. I can't remember. Maybe even 70. I honestly can't remember. But you are going from floor to floor to floor to floor, and each floor is roughly about 1 to 2 minutes. And you are constantly killing people and constantly looking at your phone to make sure your health does not tick down. Because if it does, you die. And you have to not just restart, but you restart from any floor within 10 floors, you restart. So if you go from floor 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 and you die on floor 5, you fall back and you restart on floor 1. If you are on floor 23 and die, you restart on floor 20. If you're on floor 47, you start on floor 40, right? See how that works? So it's a really, really cool game that is so crazy, so fantastic, so frantic and fun. I'm super pissed that I didn't play this earlier. I'm super grateful because the whole reason I got to play this game is because I did a sponsorship stream. And man, that was so much fun. That was one of the funnest streams I've had in probably all year, to be honest. Because the game is so fun. I was so locked in. I was so held at ransom by this game, and my attention span was held at ransom. I could not stop thinking about it. I got the Switch 2 version, which just came out, even though the game came out on PC in 2024. And I ended up playing through this game twice in the span of maybe 4 or 5 days. That's how much of a hold this game has on me. Because if you know anything about me, I do not replay games, very rarely, if ever. And so if it's a game that not only did I replay twice, but I replayed twice in a handful of days, like that's really something special. This will probably be, depending on how I figure out about older games, I think this might take the spot of a category in Game of the Year later on at the end of the year. But holy crap, this game is so good. Mad Jack Mullet is one of the best video games I've played in a solid 5 years, easily, if not more. It's so good. It's so fantastic. And there's a similar game that I played last night, which I'm not going to talk about on the podcast. I'll save that for next time. It's an early access game. There's only a handful of levels. But when a game has its own self-style, like self-realized style, I value that more than graphics. I value that more than story even, or gameplay. It knows what it wants to be, and it executes on it so utterly perfectly that I have zero complaints about it, other than I wish there was more. Like, that's it. I wish there was more of this game. It is so good. Even the boss fights are pretty interesting. Unfortunately, there was a handful of times that I died, and most of the times that I died, they were on, I take that back, because I do believe I died at least 7 or 9, I think at least 10 times throughout both playthroughs, for sure. But it's really cool too, because you get upgrades during each level or floor. So when you complete a floor, 1 to 2 minutes, you get an upgrade. You get a choice of 1 to 3 upgrades. And those upgrades stay with you until you get to the 10th floor of that level. So if you get to floor 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, each floor at the end, you get an upgrade. And after the 10th floor, after the boss for that 10th floor, then it removes all the upgrades except for one that is permanent. And again, you get these unlocks and stuff like that. It's quote unquote roguelike, where it has semi-permanent upgrades, but very few and far between. And man, dude, everything about it is so good. Even the boss fights are really fun. And the boss fights they're robot billionaires or robo-billionaires. It's so good, man. Every single thing about this game is fantastic. I love it so much. All right. Let's talk about the next game. Forza Horizon 6. Now, Forza is one of those games that it's a car racing game, and it's called Forza, not Forza, because there is no T. I don't care if it's Italian. There's no T in it, so you cannot pronounce it Forza. It's Forza, because it's Forza. And if you were Italian, it would be Forza. You would roll the R. You would not put a T in there. Now, I'm going to try and make this short and sweet, because Forza Horizon is a side series of the Forza Motorsport game. And what they used to do, because Forza Motorsport was the Microsoft answer to Sony's Gran Turismo. Gran Turismo was like this big prestige title for Sony made by Polyphony Digital. And they basically have been the kings of simulation car racing games. So when the original Xbox came out, Microsoft had to have a simulation car racing game to rival Gran Turismo. So they made Forza Motorsport, and it was really cool. On the Xbox 360, a few years later, they came out with the Forza Motorsport. I think it was 3 at the time. Yeah, I think Forza Motorsport 3 was the first one. And then they did a split, where instead of simulation racing, where it's very, very serious, they came out with Forza Horizon. And the Horizon series is a much more laid back arcade racer style game where it's a lot of fast racing in crazy atmospheres and terrains where it is less serious. You can kind of go off the course. You can run through trees and break obstacles, bash into as many cars as you want. And it's all kind of encouraged. And it takes place around this music festival. And each game in the Forza Horizon series is a different location in the world. So I believe they had, I can't remember what Horizon 1 was. I think Horizon 2 was in Colorado. Horizon 3 was Australia. Horizon 4 was London. Horizon 5 was, oh crap, I can't remember what 5 was. That was the last one. And now we have 6, and 6 is in Japan. So Japan is like the one thing that everyone was like really, really wanting, I guess. And I just found it okay. I think the location was just kind of bland. I actually really liked the Australia version the best. That was my favorite one. And it's very online focused now too. So as you are racing, you see other players in the open world area that are driving around too. And you can't interact with them or hit them because they become transparent as soon as you get close to them. So you can't screw anyone over, right? You can't have someone trying to do a speed trap race to go as fast as they can through a speed light and run into them, block them. So like that's cool. And you'll see characters driving around, and if you drive up next to them or if they're parked, you can hit the X button and they'll be able to interact with you. So you can go on races and stuff like that. But the real joy for this game for me is the car collecting, which they do barn hunts. And in this open world, they kind of give you a semi-vague location of where a barn is that holds a unique car that is all busted up. And if you find that barn, you get to keep that car after it gets rebuilt by your buddies or whatever. What I really liked about this one is with Forza Horizon 6, it did not take the music festival section or like the overall planning or the overall music festival plot really serious at all. Like it's the 6th one in the series. There's 0 iteration on it. So all you're getting is the same thing over and over. Hey, there's this music festival or this festival where we race cars, we play music, everyone's having a good time. But honestly, like that's barely in this game at all. What I really like that they did is they allowed some like a day trip sections where you go to this one location and you interact with this one location, and then a couple characters come out and do a little cutscene, and they say, I'm going to take you around Tokyo or Japan, and I'm going to show you some very famous places. And so you go on this like little mini tour with your cars, and you drive around, and the lady is talking about like, oh yeah, and that's the famous, temple or whatever, and that's the famous cherry trees. It's just like, oh, this is cool. Like there's a little bit of history, there's a little bit of geography, a little bit of learning in this video game. Like that's cool. I love that. Same thing with another section where you go to a buddy's garage and you basically find these cars out in the world, bring them back to the garage, and then soup them up so that they're crazy fast and hyper performance and all this. And then you drive them to the festival. Those are the best parts about this game. Everything else was just, it's a car racing game. They do a lot of event races. Maybe not even a lot. There's like maybe 5 or 6 massive event races where they're big, massive super spectacles. And there's this one in this game that just made me roll my eyes and just go, what are we doing here, folks? And it's this giant mech where you are racing across Japan, racing this massive, I'd say at least 20 to 30 story mech that is a massive robot. And I know it's Japan, but it takes you completely out of the game because it's something so unbelievably realistic that I can't take it seriously. Like, it breaks that suspension of disbelief so utterly and fantastically that I just went, screw this. I don't care about this. And it's really where I just started getting really bored with the game, because it's a self-serious game in a way. Like, they're doing a lot of racing, and some of the other events are really cool. You're racing against like planes and helicopters. You're doing a lot of, I think it's called Gymkhana, where you're doing a lot of like drift racing and stuff like that around obstacles. It's really cool. And when you get those big spectacle moments where you're racing against planes and helicopters, they're rad. They're really fun. But when I got to the mech version, I just went, dude, what is this? This is so dumb and lame. It felt lame. It felt like someone like jingling keys in front of me going, ooh, shiny thing, shiny thing. Like, there's no substance there. It just felt so out of character of this game. Now, also, one of my favorite things about the game too is because it's open world, you can kind of drive around for wherever you want. And there's a lot of little unlockables. There's a lot of little collectibles. So as you drive on every road, it unlocks roads driven. So if you drive around like for 2 hours, you'll drive over 150 out of 612 roads. And so you can go around the entire map and see the unhighlighted road sections on the map. And then you can go from point A to point B and drive over those and unlock that number so that number climbs higher. It's really cool. It's a very cool little thing. Also, a lot of little boards and mascots that you can run and crash over to just be a collectible. It's fun. And then the DJs are really, really cool too. I've loved those sections of that. So there is a lot to Forza Horizon, but it was a Game Pass game. I got Game Pass for it just so that I can rent it. I'll never play it again. So yeah, like I said, with 4 and 5, I'm done with the festival. I want something new. Give me a good plot. I think my plot is way better than anything that they'll ever come up with, which is, you are not the one anymore. You were the one. You're older. Now you are planning the festival. So instead of having a bunch of kids talk to you and you be this, 20-something-year-old that starts from nothing and goes to become the one, you are old, you're on the verge of retirement, you have to plan the route out yourself. So you basically pick a location. And I think it would be cool if it was worldwide. So you would have a location of like, let's say 10 locations in the world: Germany, Japan, Australia, London, America, South America. Oh, Mexico. That's what Horizon 5 was. Mexico. And so you go to all these different locations and you pick out in the world map and you create these courses. Here's a speed trap. Here's a drag race section. Here's, blow through these 5 billboards or whatever. You basically become the designer of the festival, and I think that would be way, 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 way better. But enough of Forza Horizon 6. Now let's talk about Subnautica 2. Subnautica 2 is a game that I've been waiting for years, because Subnautica was one of my favorite games in 2014 to 2017. It's a game where you play as this person who lands on an alien world. Your spaceship crashes, and the alien world is pretty much all water. And you have to survive because there's no one around. And it's all underwater. It's a scuba diving game, but on an alien world with alien technology. So it's also survival and crafting. I played it back in 2014 when it came out in early access. It finished in 2017 and I played it. And they, during the development of Subnautica 1, they had VR support for it. And playing Subnautica on the flat screen version, like a normal video game, it's fine. It's a fine game. I don't think it would have impressed me at all. But playing Subnautica in VR is so unbelievably different and honestly life-changing. It really is. If you are someone who does a lot of hyperbole and exaggeration, like, you might not think that it is, but it really is, because it changes your mind on how you play this game and every game going forward. Because you see the game in flat screen mode, and they got this little goggle matting around the TV screen so that you feel like you're underwater. And it's fine, because we've been playing games like that for like 40 years. But when you put on a VR headset and you play this game and you dive into the water, there is no goggle, masking area. You're underwater, and the audio of Subnautica is so well done. You hear the bubbles of you breathing in the water. You hear the muffled noises of the alien creatures and other things that you see. And it's terrifying when you are in deep waters and you see the murkiness of the waters where you can't tell what is what. It's so terrifying in a way. And you're searching for stuff, you're scanning stuff, you're unlocking stuff, you're battling enemies, or this one, unfortunately, you don't. But in Subnautica 1 and the sequel, Below Zero, it's one of the most terrifying, but in the most awesome way possible. It's like a good horror movie. Like, you get a little scared, but you're thrilled by it as well. And that's what Subnautica is for a lot of people. Now, me personally, I have what is called thalassophobia, which I don't think is like a real quote unquote thing. It's more of of a mindset than anything else. Thalassophobia is the fear of dark, deepy ocean depth waters. And I don't have like a terrifying, crippling fear of it. It's more of a fear of respect than anything else. But if you're watching the video of the podcast, you can see areas where the murkiness kind of opens up a little bit, but then like some of the land mass just drops off a cliff and you're just in open depths. Like, it is utterly terrifying in a way. And man, it's so interesting how they play how they make this game, and how good it does of a job of the visibility of water and how everything looks and moves and feels and sounds. Every single thing about Subnautica is amazing. And they just amplified it with Subnautica 2. They took Subnautica and the sequel, Subnautica Below Zero, and made the third game, which is technically called Subnautica 2, into this unbelievably good video game. But it's in early access. Now, the game was actually supposed to come out last year in early access. But there was this whole big, massive issue with the publishers, I believe it's Krafton, and the developers, which is Unknown Worlds. And the developers basically were told that if you hit a milestone, we'll give you a bonus of $250 million. So they worked really hard. They hit all the milestones. And then the publisher said, no, we're not going to do that. And so the developer took him to court. And that was right before the game was supposed to be, or right in the middle of when the game was supposed to be releasing in early access sometime in 2025. Well, clearly they weren't going to be able to do anything when the game was, or when everything was in litigation for like 9-10 months, I think, something like that. So we just had to wait patiently. And then there was just this random news drop a couple months ago saying, all right, everything's been worked out. The publisher did a bunch of weird, crappy things, and they actually just asked ChatGPT to find a loophole so that they wouldn't have to pay them the $250 bonus, which is super crappy. Just ridiculous stuff, right? Anyways, long story short, they finally said, all right, we won. We're getting our bonus. We're actually getting rid of the publisher, obviously, and they're self-publishing the game. But the game is going to come out in early access, I think in, what was it, last month in May. And then we got Subnautica 2. I think it was like April, like late April maybe. And no, I think it was in May. I think it was in early May. And unfortunately, the game was not able to be played immediately in VR, technically. Some people got access to it and started modding it, and it was playable, but in a very broken state. Because the VR mode is able to be done very easily because of the engine that the game is created in, Unreal Engine 5. That allows us to play games very easily with a mod called UEVR, or Unreal Engine VR. However, there is a weird way that the water gets shaded in the game. It's a very technical way, and it took about a month for modders to daily work on this to get it running in a state where the game is playable in VR and doesn't have any graphical glitches. So I played it in VR with the graphical glitches, with some kind of workarounds, and I got a good chunk of the way through. But again, it's an early access game. It's going to take a few years for this game to come out in 1.0. So there's a certain part of this game that is available to play, and you get to a certain point in the story mode, and it cuts you off. It says, thank you for playing. This is the end of the early access. Dunzo. And man, I'm so thrilled that we have Subnautica 2. I'm so thrilled that it's able to be played in VR with the thanks and help of the modders. I even tried a little bit. I helped out testing some stuff, giving some feedback and things like that, and that was really cool too. But playing Subnautica in VR is one of the most life-changing things that you can do as a gamer. I honestly mean that, and with all of my heart. If you have never played VR, please buy a good VR headset. If you tried Virtual Boy back in the 90s, that's not even a thing. If you tried quote-unquote cardboard VR or those really crappy mobile VR units back in like the 2018, 2019 era, garbage, absolute garbage. That's not real VR. I'm talking full-blown Oculus Quest, Quest 3 or Valve frame or the Steam frame or the Valve Index or any of those real several $100 headsets. Like, that is VR. And if you play it, whether it's standalone or on PC, where the graphics are going to be better on PC, the performance is going to be better on PC, or if you do standalone, who cares? You're playing a game in VR, and VR is amazing because it takes you from a flat screen experience and wraps the entire world around you in a way that is not possible and able to be understood until you actually put the headset on. It's one of my biggest pet peeves about talking about VR with someone who's never played VR is they will not understand the life-changing feeling it is. You will never perceive video games in the same way if you don't play VR. You have to put the headset on. And when you do put the headset on for the first time and you play a game, even PC original Doom or Quake, you will say, holy crap. This is VR. This is what I've been missing out on for over a decade. This is what video games are like. It's the paradigm shift of video games. It is the altering moment of video games and how they are played to have this aspect ratio that is not just a flat screen, not 4:3, not 16:9, literally 360 degrees, full depth, moving around in the game world. It is Tron come to life. And that's what I'm talking about, man. That is the best part of VR, is it's Tron come to life, where you are inside the game world. You are interacting with characters that are life size. If you are standing up, the character feels like they are right in front of you, and you can move around their face and their head and see the depth of them like you were talking to a real person in real life. That is the power and majesty of VR. It is unbelievable. Okay, I feel good about that. So that's Subnautica 2. It's in early access. I'm going to finish it when I have a little bit of time, finish the early access, and then every major update, I'll come back to it and do a stream. And I think I'll do a full playthrough of a stream. But let's talk about the last game for the podcast, Flatout 4 VR, which is right now one of my favorite games I've played in the last several years as well. Mullet Magic, Flatout VR, Subnautica 2. I haven't really talked about it, but the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles VR game, you can see I'm kind of a little passionate about VR, right? Maybe just tiny tad bit. Flatout 4 VR is a series, Flatout, one of my favorite racing series of all time. You got Burnout, Flatout, Wreckfest, which is made by the same people as Flatout, San Francisco Rush, a lot of arcade-style racers. I'll briefly cover this because I don't want to dive too deep into it because it's just unnecessary, because I've told this story a million times. But Flatout, the original one that came out on the original Xbox, I had my core group of friends that we're all church friends. They would come over to my house. We did this sleepover once where we played Flatout, and in Flatout, we played it all night. In Flatout, one of the major kind of like bullet points on the back of the box is that when you get in a really bad car crash, your character gets ejected through the windshield and flies around in ragdolls. It is hilarious and super fun. We would drive in this one course that had a very long straightaway. We get to the end of the straightaway, we turn around, and we'd wait for all the cars to get to the end of the lap. And then we would drive full force and see how fast we could. We basically played chicken in this game, and we lost every time. But every time we lost, we also won, because our characters would fly out of the windshield, they'd hit things, they'd ragdoll, they'd get broken limbs, they'd stretch unbelievably. Just hilarious, fun, good old-fashioned video games. Now, Flatout 1 and 2 were made by Bugbear. And then they moved on to different games. They actually started doing Wreckfest, which was originally called Next Car Game, which I thought was a really goofy title. And I'm really glad they changed the name, but I was kind of like, are they going to change it? Because they kept the Next Car Game title on that game for years. It was in early access from, again, like 2014 to 2017. It was great. But anyways, Flatout got changed. Like, the developers changed from Flatout 1 and 2 from Bugbear to other developers. And Flatout 3, I remember kind of being really garbagey. And even Flatout 4, I don't remember playing. I remember Ultimate Carnage, I think, was Flatout 4.5 or maybe 5. But I played it like maybe a handful of minutes of it, and I went, this is not fun. But then a couple years ago in 2024 in August, we got a VR showcase that said, hey, they showed a trailer of this game, and I immediately knew what it was because I knew Flatout so well. Flatout 1, I went, that's Flatout. That's Flatout 1 in VR. They're doing a Flatout game in VR? Are you kidding? I got so excited. But they didn't say anything for like a year afterwards. And they just said, we're making Flatout in VR. And it wasn't until earlier this year that they said, we're making Flatout 4 VR. And I went, Flatout 4 VR? What? What I saw in 2024 was Flatout 1. Why are you saying it's number 4? Did 4 have like some of the same levels? Like, what's going on here? It was this weird like disconnect. Anyways, we got Flatout 4 in VR, and I went, that sucks, because Flatout 4 kind of sucks. I don't remember it, but I know it's not going to be bugbear level of quality. And it's not, but it's super fun. The developers, which is a very small team, have fully, from the ground up, rebuilt this game with the proper physics for it to be unbelievably good racing. That just so happens to also be VR. And being in the cockpit or in the driver's seat, having the windshield there, looking at the dashboard and the radio and all that in VR is so good because it's very fast paced too. So you're whizzing by things like houses and trees and fences, other cars. They're bashing you because it's combat racing. It's like Burnout. Also, Burnout is one of my favorite racing series of all time. And this feels very similar to what Burnout in VR would be like too, but with less polish because it's a much more smaller developer. But having the VR aspect of it has created one of this just insanely fun experiences to the point where I went, you know what? They keep talking about racing wheels, and I haven't had a racing wheel since 2001. Maybe it's time I buy a racing wheel. And I did. I bought a racing wheel just specifically for this game, and then I used it on Forza Horizon 6. And I've been having a blast with it. In VR, with a racing wheel, this is the absolute pinnacle, best way to play this game. But even if you don't have a racing wheel, which I've done a handful of times, we had a power outage, and my studio where the computer is wasn't. I can't remember how it worked out, but basically, I was in the house, no power, and I think the gaming computer was on the generator or something like that. And I'm sitting there with a headset, and I'm playing this game with no power and by candlelight, and I'm just having a blast. I'm having such a fun time. The physics are there. The soundtrack is actually fairly good for a really random, weird soundtrack. There's this band that is called, in the game, like Glitter Devils or something like that. And it's 100% not the name because I was like, dude, this song is really cool. It's called Sherman Oaks. And I was like, I like this song. It sounds like a woman's version of Guns N' Roses a little bit. Like it almost sounded like Axl Rose a little bit. So I started doing some research. I'm like, well, this game has been out for years, like Flatout 4. It's been out since 2017, and I'm looking for it on Spotify. I'm looking for it on YouTube. I cannot find this song anywhere by this band. So I started doing a little bit of research, and I found out the band's name is 100% totally different for the reason that they're called the Menstruators. And so in the game, they changed the name of the band because they didn't want to or couldn't have to, maybe because of video game ratings or something, but they couldn't have the Menstruators as the band name, so they changed it to something else. But go listen to Sherman Oaks by the Menstruators or whatever, Glitter Death or something, Death Glitter in the game. But man, it's a really, really good soundtrack for, again, a kind of lower budget title. One of the cooler things about Flatout also is the bonus games. There's a ton of bonus games that allow you to just have fun with ragdoll physics of your character. So you are at the top of a ramp and you go as fast as you can, and at the end of the ramp you launch your character out of the windshield. Like that's a whole mechanic. And they play around with this by giving you a bunch of different events, like long jump, seeing how far you can actually launch your character, like 100, 200, 300 meters, or a dartboard, and you have to accumulate certain points, or a bowling where you have to shoot your character out and have them skid along the ground to the point where they hit a bunch of bowling pins and see if you can get a strike. Stuff like that. It's just super, super interesting. I love it so freaking much, man. Oh, that's so good. So that's Flatout for VR. Now, one last thing that I wanted to do before I kind of wrap the podcast up is I want to start doing just a little bit of tweaking with the format, because there's a billion video game podcasts. And one of the things that I like doing about my podcast is it's just me talking into a microphone about video games. That's one of the most unique things about a video game podcast at this point, because if you listen to all the other ones, they basically do a format where a lot of it is just video game news. And I talk about that every day. I look at that every day, but I don't record my thoughts on it every day, unfortunately, just because of life and how life is and my job. So I want to talk about a little bit of current events of video games. So there is a segment that I'm going to start doing called Hot Off the Press. And that is basically me just talking about one singular video game current event, one singular news piece. So the one that I want to talk about right now is Grand Theft Auto 6. I've really liked Grand Theft Auto games. I started really playing them back in 2001 with Grand Theft Auto 3. But I did play a couple of Grand Theft Auto games like Grand Theft Auto 1, Grand Theft Auto 2, Grand Theft Auto London Stories, I believe, which was like the side expansion pack for PlayStation. But Grand Theft Auto 3 was really the game that I played and really took a big interest in. But my favorite was the sequel to that, Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Vice City was all about neon lights, cocaine, and the 80s. Every single thing about Vice City, I believe, is a perfect video game. Vice, at the time, going back to it, obviously now with the graphics and the world layout and the storyline, it's not as impressive now, but it is still a perfect, I believe it's a perfect video game because it encapsulates every single thing that game tries to do about the 80s and does it perfectly. Now, I was born in the 80s, but I didn't live through the decade with a great understanding because I was born in 85. But over the years, I've really learned a lot about the decade and what it was. I think one of my favorite shows was on VH1 back in the day of I Love the 80s. And they kept doing like multiple things about that decade. It was great. Like the whole 80s circle back nostalgia thing, man. I dug that back in 2001 to 2008, somewhere around there. Like 80s were just everywhere for a while. Now it's the 90s, right? And we're going to start soon seeing the 2000s. But Vice City was so good. It was perfect. San Andreas, which was the sequel, so technically GTA 5, San Andreas, it had more of a gangster theme. It was all based in LA, a lot of smog and like orangey yellow sunsets. Like it does a really good job of encapsulating that time era, and it's all based in the 90s, rap, West Coast versus East Coast and all that. So then we got GTA 4, which is back to London or New York City with Nico Bellic and Cousin Roman. And oh man, that whole thing. And then we got GTA 5. And then Rockstar stopped making video games for over a decade, practically. With GTA 5, it's been such a cash cow and blah, 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 all this stuff. But we're really here to talk about GTA 6, the most expensive video game ever created. They have gone on record saying it's well over $1 billion. It's probably well over $2 billion in budget. And it's taken years and years and years and years and years, and we haven't really seen much of it. We have only glimpses and little tiny pieces of information. But the main thing about GTA 6 is this last week, they finally started talking. Rockstar finally started talking about GTA 6, saying pre-orders are going to go live tomorrow. And that just, everyone lost it because we still didn't know how much the video game was going to cost. And It was a eye-watering, sweltering $80 for the standard edition and $100 for the premium edition. And since my throat is super dry, so I'm going to crack open a nice cold one with the boys. Sorry about that. My throat is super dry. Okay, so talking about GTA 6, the pre-orders went live and people lost their minds because it was $80 for a regular standard edition video game. This is the price point that Nintendo said Mario Kart World is worth, and every video game after that was going to be based on what the market basically said, and no one is buying $80 video games. So we haven't seen an $80 video game since Mario Kart World, which is a garbage video game. It's a totally decent Mario Kart game. It's probably it is one of the better Mario Kart games, but it ain't $80 worth, that's for darn sure. GTA 6 finally ended up being $80. That's going to be the new price point, unfortunately. And all the game journalists for years and years who get their games for free keep telling us we need to spend more money on our games because we need to honor the developers. We need to support them. No, we don't. We're consumers. We support them by buying the game, period, and talking about it. That is the actual support about a video game, is good word of mouth. You want me to support your game? Well, I don't have to. That's not a right that you deserve. That make a good game and we'll do it out of our love for the game and the product. But this whole thing about like we need to, and that's, I think, probably the more bigger thing that I have an issue with, which I'm not going to go on a rant about. But Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to be a very fun, enjoyable game, I'm sure. I have zero doubts in my mind that game will be worth $80 or even $100. But there's been a few other extra little tidbits that have been getting a lot of people up in arms about. Number one, the price. Again, $80 for a standard version of the game is a lot of money, especially now. This economy is in the toilet, like Weird Al said. And that's a musical reference, by the way. That is from the last recession that we had back in 2009 or 2008. But the economy sucks. No one has money. Everything is way more expensive than it needs to be. Triple the amount of time, the expense that it was just a handful of years ago, thanks pandemic. And like, just that's way too much money for a video game. However, there is a second option, which is even more expensive, $100 for the premium version. Now, premium versions usually include a lot of DLC that is cosmetic, a lot of stuff that is extra bonuses. It's nothing that you need to have to play the game. And that's the case here too. However, they did go on record and say that the stuff that they are getting, or people are getting with the premium versions and not in the standard versions, are extra things like different stores, like where you can't even buy in-game certain items or walk into certain stores if you don't have the premium version. You can't get certain clothes, which again, like that's the thing of premium. So I personally don't have a real big gripe about this other than it's just expensive. Like it does suck, and the bigger issue is locking off part of the game because of a premium purchase. And yeah, again, I see the argument to be made, but that was a horse race that we lost long ago, like a decade ago. Like DLC and premium stuff has been an issue for a long time. Why is everyone getting up in arms about it now? So that's really kind of like one of those weird things. The other big issue is that there is a physical version coming out, and people love their physical versions. But the physical version is not actually physical in this case. Sure, you get a box, a nice looking box, but you're not getting a manual. Like, again, we lost that race long ago. Like, we haven't gotten manuals for like well over 20 years at this point, practically. For most part, there are always exceptions and caveats, but for the most part, there is no video game manuals in game boxes anymore in physical editions, unless you buy like the premium stuff from like limited run. And again, they're limited runs. They're not actual like full-blown production. But you're not getting a disc. And I think I know that's what everyone's pissed off about. Instead, you're getting a digital code in the box. So you're buying a physical box, but without the actual thing that is holding the actual game, right? Again, this is something that I personally don't have a problem with, because this is the way PC games have been for, again, well over like 20 years, like 15, 20 years. We don't have video game physical discs. Games are way too big. And this is where I think a lot of people who are up in arms about it, who are arguing about it, they have a very low mindset. They have a very basic mindset of video games because they're console gamers and they don't understand that video games, number one, are all digital. Every video game is digital because it's all computers, right? You're building a game on a computer. It's all code. What they're valuing is that transference of code from a digital format to a physical copy, because that's what they grew up with. And so they're holding on to this like nostalgia of having a tactile feedback of holding something physical in their hands, something tangible, right? And there is something to say about that. Don't get me wrong. It's not a bad thing. I love physical stuff too, but I don't value it the way that I did back then because digital is better at this point. And the big thing is, and the big pushback whenever I say that is, they can take your stuff away at any point, which theoretically, yes. But so what? That doesn't actually happen. The thing with video games, when your library gets possibly taken away, and I've done the research. I researched this for about 3 hours the other day. There has been a handful of cases across all video games over the last 30 years of digital purchases where someone's account or someone's game got taken away from them. It has been very few and far between, and there was two main things, and they were very little occurrences. Number one, it was a licensing issue. Number two, it was a database transfer issue. And then number three, there was like a handful of cases where the game should not have been sold, and so it had to be revoked. Refunds were made, blah, blah, blah. So digital versus physical, which has always been a thing and always an issue with a lot of people. And I see both sides of it. I really do. I see both sides. I was in the newspaper, for crying out loud, back in 2010, 2011, for talking about digital versus physical. I ran a game store, and I didn't want people buying digital versions of games and just not come into my store. I wanted people to come into my store, buy physical versions of games, take them, play them, and then bring them back and sell them back to me so that I could sell it to some other person, right? That's the whole purpose of a game store. So I get that side, but I also get the side and the convenience because I've also lost my entire video game collection. Back in 2013, 2014, I lost every single video game that I ever had. It was all gone. And there was thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of extremely rare like some, not all of it, obviously, but some extremely rare stuff. I had Panzer Dragoon Saga for the Sega Saturn, which was around $300, $400 at the time. I had a Blockbuster Donkey Kong Country competition cart that was probably in the scope of at least $800-900 at the time. Now it's probably worth a couple thousand. All of that's gone. I'll never ever get it back, and that's okay. Like I've made peace with that. It was hard to deal with, but I made peace with it. Ever since then, I've been digital only 100%, and even games that I bought in 2008, 2009 on Steam, on the Steam sale for like 99 cents, like Psychonauts, my favorite game of all time, I can literally pull it up and push play or install, have it instantly installed because it's like a couple gigs, right? And then be playing it within 30 seconds. Instead of having to go to a console, turn it on, go to the wall, pick out the disc, put it in, and then push play, and then sit down and play the game off a disc, right? The physical version is the exact same thing as the digital version, and that's where the issue is. The actual game itself is you're getting the exact same experience, if not a little bit better, because the digital version is going to load faster than off the disc. Modern day, everything's loaded on the hard drive anyways. Everything's loading from storage. So the physical game is basically just a key at this point. And why do you care about a key if it's a disc or a code? Like, that's really all there is to it. So there is a lot of underlying deeper issues, but digital versus physical really, really comes down to, number one, personal preference. Number two, nostalgia. It's a unfounded nostalgia of putting your mind in a format or a setting where touching the thing is more important than the actual thing itself. Think about MP3s versus vinyl. Not MP3s because everyone, the quality is so worse. What about lossless? Literally one-to-one copy, like they are the exact same audio quality. But people will always go to vinyl and say vinyl is better because you get the pops and hisses. Well, on original vinyl recordings from the 60s, like an original pressing of Beatles records, sure. But anything after that, pretty much, like, come on, like after tape decks and CDs and everything like that, a digital version of a song is the exact same as a vinyl version. The vinyl version actually has things that are not actually included into the recording, because the recording was a digital recording in a recording studio, and then they pressed it to vinyl, and the pops and hisses and the warm feelings and the fuzzies that you are getting are coming from something that is added on top of that. The needle that is making contact with the grooves on the vinyl disc. Modern vinyl is dumb. Modern vinyl makes no sense to me whatsoever, because it is taking a digital copy, a lossless digital copy that I already own and have on my computer, and I can listen to it right now. Quality is instantly the exact same. All you're doing is taking that quality and degrading it by adding to it the pops and fuzzy warm feelings and all that warmness and crap from the groove of the vinyl record and the needle making contact. I don't get it. And the reason why I'm so angry about it is because people say it's better. It's not better. You just prefer it. And I have no problem having people. I'm so sorry I'm getting so angry about this, but I have no problem when someone says, you know what, I prefer a vinyl record. Like, cool, awesome, go with God. Like, that's fantastic. I have no problem you saying that you like vinyl better. It doesn't make it true. It's just a personal preference. And same thing with physical versus digital. The difference is the actual digital version, in most cases, not all, in most cases, are the exact same, if not better. Because again, older physical media, you are playing on a less you are playing on original hardware that has lifetime expectancy to it. You're playing on a disc that has longer loading times. You're playing with a much less precise controller in almost all cases. Like, you are in the visual quality, because of the cables, you are getting a much lower visual quality as well. There is legitimate, this is better in digital format than it is in physical. With modern games, it is a much finer line because, again, everything is all digital. You're just converting it to a physical copy. And the physical copy is just a key anyways, because all of that data is already loaded. And it's not even loaded from the disk in like 99% of the cases now. It's all just saying, okay, cool. We're going to pull all that data off of our servers, and all the data off of our servers are much more current than what was pressed like 7 months ago or several years ago. Your disk that you get from a physical copy is not the same game that you're playing anyway. So why does it freaking matter? Again, if you want to say, oh, well, but I get to play the game if the servers go offline. Well, no, not anymore. That's not how video games work anymore. Everything dials back. And the same thing too is all video games are always being worked on. So the disc that you have is version 1.0. The game that you're playing is version 8.3. If you put the game disc in and the servers go down, you're playing version 1.0 for the rest of your life. Which, again, like, yeah, cool, awesome. I'd rather play version 1.0 than nothing, for sure, 100%. But it is not better than the digital version. Like, that's where I have a problem with it. And I didn't mean to go on such a big old rant there. Man, it is hot off the press. But it's just one of those things that I see people saying certain things, and I go, you're very passionate about it. You're clearly caring about it. And it's a personal preference, and I don't want to make you feel bad by having a different personal preference in mind. That's fine. But if you're saying it's better than this, like, no, it's not. Like, objectively, it's not better. You just prefer it the other way. And again, that's fine. I have no problem with that, man. I did not mean to go on a rant there. But anyways, Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to come out in November, and I'm going to buy the $100 version, and it's going to be digital, and I'm never going to care about it because I'm going to play that game, and then I will have it in my Steam account library forever. It's never going to actually go away. And to tack on just one quick other thing that a lot of people would say is the Grand Theft Auto thing, the music licensing. Music licensing is a big thing with a lot of video games. So, I've got Vice City on... I have Vice City on PlayStation 2 with the original soundtrack that I can play at any time. Yeah, cool. I have the original version of Vice City on my computer that I can play at any time. There's things called mods, and we can fix them very easily. Like, but the game got taken away from you. Well, I bought it, so I have zero reason to care if I have to pirate it for whatever reason. If Grand Theft Auto Vice City got taken away from me and just got deleted from my Steam library, I go, okay, cool. Download it from the internet with all the mods, with better visual effects, with the original soundtrack, and it's optimized, so it's going to play the best, and I can play it in VR, and it cost me nothing. Like, come on, man. Every single time someone comes up with an excuse about why physical is better, you can always just go, I can achieve the same thing, if not better, on PC digitally. Period. If you remove the PC from the argument completely, which is a stupid thing to do because that's the entire crux of why video games are better on PC. But if you're strictly saying console, I'll never own a PC, and you just say, I only do consoles and I'll never, ever, ever get a PC. I don't want to, I wish PCs never existed. then I guess you can make an argument for physical versus digital. But again, I did the research. There's like 3 times someone's games got deleted, and they were all very small indie games because the company folded and went bankrupt. And then the other times were, I believe they were on PC only, and it was due to moving. Yeah, it was from PC only because it was when it was an EA situation. When EA went from Origin to EA Play or whatever app they have now, whatever dumb name that they have for it, there was some database migration where some data got corrupted. So a few people, or a not insignificant amount of people, had some of their games kind of removed or deleted or whatever. Again, if you're on the PC, then you know you bought it. There's no qualms with just downloading the game, especially when it's such an older game, right? And it would have never been one of those games that had servers attached to it or anything where you could get banned, because all those servers are gone, because EA shuts down their servers like every couple of years for every new game that they have, which is why live service, which is not just like online shooters, but any game that has a connect to home feature where you have to have a server, like they're all going to go away anyway. So like, why do you really care? Like if you bought, I don't think you could have bought, but if you bought Destiny 1 on a disc, it doesn't matter if you bought it physically, the server's shut down. You can't play it even if you wanted to. Like, sorry. So that's the end of my rant on the news of this week. So I'm going to call it here because I'm tired of ranting. My throat is dry and tired. Oh boy, that was an episode, man. I did not mean to go off on a rant there a couple times. But like I said, I have a lot of stuff that I've been dealing with, a lot of things that have been going on in life that I really am trying to take care of and be better about. And a lot of that stuff has gotten in the way of streams. I'm going to do a hard push for getting back to a normal schedule. I'm going to try and make July super fun and awesome. I have some ideas and interesting things, and then maybe change some of the formats of some of the streams, especially the podcast. The podcast might get some form of uplift or change of format, depending on how I feel about it, after episode 100. I think episode 100 will be a really fun, like, kind of look back at the last several years, the last 100 episodes, what worked, what didn't work, and what I want to do next with the podcast. I like recording the podcast. I want to do it live. I just don't know how to do it live without it kind of messing up the way that I like doing the podcast. Taking user suggestions or chats and stuff like that, it throws me off my game when I have chat running in parallel. So even when I'm doing the live stream of the podcast like I'm doing right now, I don't have chat up because I don't want to be completely distracted, nor do I want to have to do a lot of shout outs. I don't enjoy that. I'm not going to do a lot of shout outs. I try, and I think I maybe did it one episode, and I listened back to that episode like months later, and I went, that sucks. I don't like that. I don't want to have the shout outs of anytime someone says hi in the chat. Like, I want to do that on the normal streams, but not in podcast form. So maybe no live podcast, maybe some live podcast, maybe a banner that says, please don't freaking say hi. Like, I don't know. But I'm going to play around with some stuff in the next couple episodes and over the course of the next couple of streams. But that's going to do it for me. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching. I hope everyone has a great rest of your night or day, wherever you are listening to this. Thank you very much. And I'll catch you on episode 100, man. Episode 100. That's going to be fun. All right. See you guys later. Take care, and God bless. And thanks for listening.